Have you ever wanted to be Tracer from Overwatch, but more yellow? If so, follow along to see how I make your dream come true in just 17 hours. If you don't know what a game jam is, game jams are basically competitions where developers make a game in a short amount of time based on a theme. The one I joined was a 2024 MashUp Game Jam with a development time of 7 days and with a theme of a helping hand. It's true that the jam lasted 7 days, but I discovered the jam 6 days, 18 hours and 24 minutes late, leaving me with a development time of roughly 30.5 hours. Realizing this, I wasted no time and got to brainstorming, and ultimately settled on an idea. Picture a platformer game where your player character moves through each level on its own, but in each of the levels they make a mistake, after which you get access to a timeline, which you can move around to rewind the character's movement. The goal of the game is for you to use the timeline to clip, copy and paste certain parts of the recording in a way which fixes a mistake the character made. So with the idea in my mind, I made a new Unity project and kicked off the development by working on the timeline. Unity actually comes with a component called a slider, which pretty much does exactly what we want. All that's left for us to do is just dress it up a little. And that I would. After that, I started working on the player character sprite. It didn't really come out as anything particularly special, but I did give him mutton chops, which may or may not be a reference to some 6'3" big guy. Next, I added some very simple animations and imported him into Unity. Oh, and also I ran out of ideas, so I decided to draw some buildings and use those as platforms. I made 4 buildings, the normal one, the fat one, the skinny tall one, and the short one. Now let's actually give the player the ability to move and jump around. I did this very easily because I'm a professional, masterful beast programmer. Around this time I also came up with a game loop. Basically the game is split up into 2 parts. First part is a recording part. During this you observe your character's movement and the mistake he makes. And then comes the second, the editing part. During this part you use a timeline to rewind your player's movement. Also to clip it and copy and paste it around as well, the whole shebang. So let's actually hook up the timeline with the movement. Now this may sound relatively complex, but not to worry, it's actually quite simple. First we need to write a script which keeps track of the player's X and Y positions. Then we need to add the positions to a list. If you don't know what lists are, think of them as variables that can hold multiple values. And after the player finishes his movement, we get the number of how many positions are contained in our list. The reason we require this number is because of how sliders work in Unity. The way the sliders work is that it goes from a minimum to a maximum value. In our case, we need to set the maximum value of the slider to the amount of positions stored in our list variable, because the length of our list corresponds to the last value in set list. I implemented all this at 2:35 AM. And pretty quickly afterwards went to bed. But before going to bed I checked in with our timer and it read 18 hours and 24 minutes left. And when I woke up there was 10 hours and 50 minutes left on the clock. But sadly I couldn't work on the game straight away since I had to run an errand, which took around 5 hours. When I actually came back, the game had a bit of an identity crisis. I got rid of the buildings and I drew and implemented what I call boosters. Here's how the game loop works now. At the beginning the player is frozen and you drag around the boosters. Once you're happy with the booster placements, you press the play button which unfreezes the player, and every time he collides with a booster he gets launched. During this part of the game we can see a timer in the top left corner. Once this timer reaches 0, the timeline pops up and the player freezes again. Now you need to use the timeline to reposition the player and to move the boosters around once more. You rinse and repeat until you reach this flag. For there to be some variety, I made different types of boosters. There's a low booster, the medium booster and the high booster. All of this launch the player with a different amount of force. There's also one more booster. This one just removes all the velocity from the player. With all the pieces set in place, I got to making the levels. I thought that the first level could work like a tutorial, so I did a few texts explaining everything to the player. In hindsight, all of this text looks a bit overwhelming, so I apologize to all the dyslexic people out there. I made a total of only 4 levels, and all of them are pretty much identical to each other. This was because of 2 things. 1, the time was running out, and 2, I was just not getting any unique ideas in my head. Next, I made a very basic main menu and level selection screen, and I was pretty much done 34 minutes before the deadline. So I would press the export button and wait, and keep on waiting until the timer became dangerously close to running out. I would quickly zip the game and submit it to the jam while there was only few minutes remaining. And I went to the submission page to check my game, but it wasn't there. I did something incorrectly and the game didn't get published. The game didn't even come out good by the end, but still I felt a pretty painful sting in my heart. I was quite devastated. I didn't know what to do. As a last-ditch effort, I just made a post on the jam's community page asking for help. And to my surprise, a few hours later, the host of the jam responded to my post and helped me submit my entry. Thank you. This is movementrecording.mp4, a game jam game made roughly in 17 hours by me. It's nothing amazing or polished, heck, it has absolutely zero SFX. But still, looking past its glaring flaws, I'm proud for making it, and I'm happy to have been a part of the 2024 MashUp Game Jam. Thank you for watching.